In this show, we rock down the road to Hyde Park with those love cats The Cure, playing a one-off UK gig. Robert Smith's guitar amp blew up in the last show, and a new one hasn't arrived yet. Will it turn up in time for tonight's sellout? Will he like the way it sounds when it does? Will Robert like it so much that he won't be able to stop playing when the 10 o'clock curfew arrives, pissing on Mayfair? Find out in his back-combed, smudged lipstick, all-in-black edition of Roadies. Hyde Park has been an occasional venue since the free festivals of the late 1960s. Today it's the turn of goth rockers The Cure to scare the ducks with their mixture of angst-filled lyrics and lipstick. The Cure have been around in various guises since the late 1970s, but we all know it's really all about Robert Smith. Thanks largely to him, The Cure have sold over 30 million albums. Today, a congregation of 15,000 will be here to worship at the altar of the cult phenomenon that is Robert Smith.
Okay, should we take it out of the case? Is that better?
Jez has been guitar tech with The Cure for 10 years, and he's already busy sorting the delivery of Robert's new amp.
The last show that we did, I lost 2 amps of Robert's, so we've had to hire something in for him to try out, and we're going to use this for the rest of the tour, while my other 2 go off for repair.
How on earth did you lose 2 amps?
Well, they broke, and apparently the odds of that happening are 735 to 1. Some university did a study on that, and it happened to me.
We're just going to plug this in here. This amp's not going to be up until changeover.
Dave Bracey has been a sound engineer for live bands ever since he ran away from his previous life of block drains and sink plungers.
I was a plumber in the 70s, which leads very nicely into being a sound engineer, actually. It's much the same thing. Family business in Tasmania. I should have taken over the family business because it was my father's fathers and his fathers before him, and I ran away to be a sound engineer, and they sort of thought I'd be back in 6 months. I wasn't.
Jez and Dave have worked together for years with other bands like Depeche Mode, Robbie Williams and Madness, I'll have you know.
I do quite often get mistaken for brothers, and when we're touring America, lots of Americans think we're twins. He's from Yorkshire and I'm from Australia, but they can't tell that.
Jez started as a roadie in the 80s after meeting a bloke from the Sisters of Mercy down the pub.
He said, oh, well, we're doing a show next week if you fancy coming along. So I says, oh, yeah, that would be great. So basically help them lift their gear into the van. All got in this van, drove off, helped them lift it out. They set it up. I didn't even do anything like that, basically. Watched the show, and we drove back again, and it was a good day out. I had a few beers. I thought, oh, I quite like this. And so he said, oh, well, if you fancy it, come along again. So I did, and 20 years later, I'm still getting in and out of vans. At the time, I was working for the Ministry of Defence, and I was ordering parts for planes, and I'm sure there was better things in life than doing that. To be having quite a lot of time off work, I was very ill in those days, so there wasn't a lot going on either. It was only the Falklands War, but I didn't think they needed me for that.
It might not look like it, but Robert is a perfectionist. He knows what he wants, and he makes sure he gets it.
Robert's vocal requirements are rather unique in the way he likes his voice to sound in the monitors. And we're not thinking this microphone here because that one's working. It's like the industry standard.
Don't fix it.
Don't fix it. But
It's interesting.
Robert's needs are quite bizarre. You could make these monitors sound really nice, and then Robert would come up and sing and want them changed back to the way they are now.
Yeah. Yes. Shall I carry that and we'll go and...
Living up to his reputation, Robert demands to hear the replacement amp before the gig.
Go and put it up in
So Jez and to take it over to his dressing room so that it's ready for Robert to play when he turns up later.
I've worked with the Cure for 10 years now, but before I worked for them, when I was working for the Mission, we did a show in, it was in LA, and the lads used to do a Cure song in the sound check. And one day I just had a little sing doing it. And they said, oh yeah, you should do that, you know, put on a bit of a Robert voice. So the show in LA, I got this wig, the big baggy jumper, put a bit of lipstick on, and the singer, okay, we've got a special guest now, never said who it was. I walked out, I mean, look at me. I'm not the biggest of lads, but people thought it was Robert. And like, they were going crazy, you know, I sang this little song and that. And got ushered off stage. People were trying to get at me. The tour manager had to push people out of the way. And so it's quite funny now to be, you know, working for the Cure. Sometimes I do have to stand in for Robert as well. You know, when he can't make things. I've opened 2 supermarkets for him, and I've judged a gymkhana down in Brighton. I think the hardest thing I had to do for him was this village fete, because he's a bit of an aficionado on the market gardening world, and he knows a good marrow.
While the crew take a break and ponder the answer to 6 down, Dave's puzzling why there's no sound coming out from the mixer.
Okay.
Try pushing a few buttons, Dave.
Yeah. Okay.
Ah, that's it. Sunglasses will help. But have you tried turning it on?
It's not on.
Well, thank you very much. A lot of people thought I was dead. Tonight, Matthew, I'm an old Ted. I do like the Elvis. As you can see, my little shrine. And the good Lord Elvis did come back down to earth recently and knock the pop idols and shitty boy bands off the top. He was there, top of the charts where he belongs, mate.
Dave's now found the on button and is testing the gear out.
I just have to check a couple of feeds to the recording truck. This is being recorded for a video tonight, I believe. There's a couple of special things I need to send them to make their life easier, like all the vocal effects and stuff, which are far too specific for anyone else to be able to get right on a one-off occasion. Hard enough for me to get them all right, and I do it every night, so.
11:30 and all the gear's on stage. Time for a sound check. Jez plays bass. But is he a frustrated rock star?
Got a little band.
Thank you, Jez.
Concrete Playground. That's our new band. Concrete Playground. I don't think every roadie does want to be a rock star, really. I mean, work with a lot of people and you see that, I mean, lives on everyday lives. You know, I do a lot of work with Robbie Williams, and there's a fine example of, you know, you think that would be a great thing to be Robbie Williams, but, you know, he can't live a proper life. We had a couple of months down in Bath at this place in the country, and we were rehearsing down there, and he loves his football, so we played a lot of football and a lot of five-a-side, and we got to the last day and we thought, right, we'll have a bit of a cup game, and we went to this little village football pitch, right, to have this football, and within 10 minutes there's about 100 people stood around watching this little game of football, so we had to leave, and, you know, I don't think I could put up with that. I'm quite happy to, you know, travel around with the rock star, but not be the rock star.
Have they?
Dave has hit his first problem. The test signal he's sending to the video truck is OK leaving him, but...
The truck wasn't getting one of those lines, so Bart's going to go and find out if it's our problem or their problem. And
what do you think, boy?
what do I think? Their problem. He'll just take a headphone amp up to the point where it's leaving us and going to them. And if you can hear it coming out the hole, it's their problem.
Hyde Park is smack next to luxurious Mayfair, and the local council has imposed a strict 10 o'clock curfew with a hefty fine for breaking it. In LA, Robert once overran a curfew by an hour and got fined $60,000. It could be an expensive night.
Cure actually have played into curfews quite often, and Robert's made the conscious decision before he walks out. He wants to play 3 more songs. He knows it's going to cost £5,000 or whatever, and he's just like, let's go. and they walk out and they play the songs because they want to. It's like a calculated decision. They know how much the curfew is going to cost, you know, £1,000 a minute or whatever. And he looks at 12 minutes worth of songs.
A quick version of that song.
Yeah.
Hang on, mate.
You're all right.
Bring her down. There you go. From several yards away, that looks like a professional job. This is the only show we're doing in the UK, so a lot of the guys have got their family coming down and that. Unfortunately, I can't get mine down because they live over in the States, but I always carry my little picture around with me of the family. There they are. Mary Lou, Bubba and Shian. Yeah, my life changed 10 years ago with a day off in New Mexico, next door to a trailer park. 2 bottles of tequila later, and that happened. God, missed them.
Dave's just got the call he didn't want.
That phone call indicates that it's our problem.
So what
This is Bart's domain back here. I don't normally delve into this part.
Somewhere in the miles of cabling leaving Dave's desk is a fault. If it's not fixed, the DVD of tonight's show will be a very quiet one.
Yeah, 1, 2, 1, 2.
I think Robert's coming down at about 4 o'clock to try amp that we've had to get in for him, and I think, you know, to pick up on the atmosphere of Hyde Park. So up until 4ish, that's about it really for now. That's not bad, is it? Hey, that's a long lunch break.
2:30, and the first few fans who've been queuing all morning sprint to make sure they get pole position. After the break, will Dave find the lost sound? And will Robert okay the replacement amp for tonight's gig? They're in if he doesn't. It's a scorcher in Hyde Park, and the Cure's gear's on stage ready for tonight's show. But still no sign of Robert Smith, whose amplifier blew up at the last gig. He has to okay the replacement, and soon.
All right, we're just going to take a couple of guitars into the dressing room for Robert, Simon and Perry to have a little warm-up, get the fingers working, and I'll come and get them about... Hello there. I'll come and pick them up about half an hour before they go on stage and give them a tuning ready for the show.
With the help of some electronic gadgetry, Dave has fixed the sound feed problem, and the video truck is now getting sound from his desk.
It was one of our lines. The things about touring a system and taking in and out of trucks every night. Things break down. Things get. It was a line in our multi-core which runs from the stage to here, and you know, if you see what it goes through every day, it's not surprising a line breaks down occasionally.
Robert Smith and The Cure attract some pretty hardcore fans. Hey!
We get lots of Cure fans that go to every show. In fact, they'll go to every show on an arena tour as well, even if it means going to America for 3 months and then off to Southeast Asia and Australia. You see the same people at every show, same bunch of maybe 20 people will do nearly 100 shows in a tour. They work at ordinary jobs, most of them, for 4 years, saving up all their money so they can take a lengthy holiday and follow the band around. It's quite interesting.
But there was a band that I was working with, and we were in America, and one of the band members ushered me over, and he said, there's a girl down the front who's dancing in a really strange way, and it's putting me off a little bit. She seems to be in the light all the time. He says, and she keeps catching my eye, and it's putting me off a little bit. So we said, OK, we'll have a little whistle. He says, you know, any chance of getting her out of the way? So I said, OK, I'll look. Anyway, I went down, and it turned out that she was the signer for the deaf people in the crowd. She put up a bit of a struggle, but we got her out of the way in the end. Right, we're going to change the strings on Simon's main bass, which I change these every show. It's Robert's main guitar, and this bass that I change every show, and then the other ones we sort of, you know, alternate, do them every couple of shows.
Robert has finally turned up and is checking out the new amp.
We did a show a couple of weeks back in Italy, and it kind of looks like Noah's Ark, and everything sort of filled up with water. And it was amazing, actually. The only thing that really did suffer was my amp.
I told you not to carry this stuff in here on your own. He's very hands-on.
But it just stopped working the other night, but strangely enough, so did the spare, which is kind of odd. And then the spare didn't work either. So. It says Jazz Clean on it, this setting. It's a fucking weird jazz band.
She's hot to trot.
Is there anything,
as we say in the...
Is there anything going on that I should be aware of? I mean, that's like massively distorted. That's oh, it's that, isn't it?
Yeah. This is going to be the clean channel, isn't it? I've heard cleaner. This is just a matinee performance. No extra charge.
One's dirty, and the other side's clean. So between the two, I get, depending on what song I'm playing, I can have one clean and one dirty. It's incredibly complicated. That's really simplifying it, obviously. So.
Robert is quite unique in that he listens to tapes of the show every night. On a long tour he gets sick of it after a while and stops, but he's certainly still listening to tape every night, and he makes he prints up an A4 sheet of comments which are directed at myself, at himself and the other band members, of just what he did and didn't like on the board tape. And I don't know anyone else that does that, not as religiously as he does. And that's just part of his particularness. Particularness, is that a word? He's quite particular about the way the songs should be mixed and also the way they should be played. But it's quite interesting to note that there are just as many comments that he writes to himself, like remember the words to the second verse, things like that.
Brit classic.
But what does Robert the perfectionist think of Jez the roadie?
Standard.
Robert, what's he like as a teacher?
He's very considerate, very knowledgeable, and very good-natured, which is probably the most important thing that anyone that works with us should be.
And heavily sedated.
After the final stamp of approval from Robert, the amp goes back onto the stage for the gig and gets the appropriate label. Almost time for the band to come on stage, and things have started to get a bit frantic.
It's funny how, like I said earlier, though, your day can be quite, you know, gently going along, and then as you see now, you've got to get a bit of a move on. That's why I'm like a coiled spring all day. You've noticed that, though. It was about this time yesterday that my amps were blowing up, so hopefully things will be a little bit more relaxed this time.
But Dave is far from relaxed, thanks to a last-minute request.
Oh yeah, all of a sudden Robert also wants my mix to go to the recording truck, which we hadn't allowed for and hadn't patched in, and that's what we're doing now.
Final missing piece of the jigsaw. And then off we jolly well.
Everything's ready. The only unanswered question is whether Robert will stop playing at the 10 o'clock Mayfair curfew or get fined £1,000 a minute. The band did overrun the curfew by 5 minutes, but they didn't get fined. Maybe there's a Cure fan somewhere in the corridors of power.
Gone pretty well, actually. Nothing major has happened, you know, in a bad way. So we'll get this all put away, and we'll be on our way to Hungary next, where we'll do it all again.